Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Last month I did a video with Brandon where we did a mask with us. It was a first impressions video where we both tried out some new skincare and talked about things. And for some reason you guys like hearing Brandon talk.
I mean, I'm kind of awesome.
A little bit. But you wanted him back. So today I pulled 8 of my favorite palettes for various reasons. And we're going to get Brandon's opinion on makeup packaging, because I think that would be something really cool. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe, because I do upload 3 times a week. And that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. I don't do that anymore. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell, and then you'll be notified every single time I upload. And without further ado, let's jump into the masks. So before we apply these, I'm just going to remove my lashes. After I did cleanse my face, I did not remove my eye makeup just because I don't actually know why I didn't. But we're going to jump into masks. So I'm going to be using the Kiehl's Avocado Nourishing Hydration Mask, which smooths and softens skin. What are you using?
I'm using the Ole Henricksen Cold Plunge Pore Mask.
That is not a first impressions for him. No. He knows he likes it.
It makes you look like a blue Smurf.
It does look like smurfing. It literally looks like avocado. I'm really excited.
Avocado.
Avocado. This literally looks like pure avocado. I need a mirror. So both of these are leave on for 15 minutes and then rinse off. So we're going to chat for 15 minutes and then rinse these off. So this video actually was inspired. I did recently review, and I'm going to link right here. I say recently. I filmed it this morning, but for you there's going to be like 3 videos in between. I reviewed the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette, and Brandon walked in while I was filming this morning, picked up the palette, and basically gushed about the packaging. So clearly we know he loves this packaging, but it inspired me to think about some of the other palettes that I really like, and is the packaging as beautiful? So Brandon, number 1, go.
All right, so the first thing that I noticed about this palette is that it's textured. That for me says a lot about packaging as a whole. Just so you can see that. So right here is a little lock. Doesn't actually do anything, but it's raised, and then there's a silk texture. It's kind of like a patent leather, and I think the reason I love it so much, just visually looking at it, is it looks lush. It looks expensive, and I don't know much about production as a whole, but just everything that you look at a palette and you're hoping that it's gonna be pretty, but just looking on the outside, this is gonna be awesome.
Next, I raved about the Jeffree Star palettes and the Jeffree Star formula for a very long time. So we're going to jump into the Blue Blood palette.
So this packaging for me was also really exciting, just because it was a different shape than every palette I've ever seen. You always get that same rectangular palette that really just looks like...
I've got 4 right here we're going to talk about.
it just looks like a basic palette you can buy anywhere. One thing I love about Jeffree Star is that he kind of takes palettes and he makes it something new. So this looks like a coffin. Obviously, this was meant to be, vampiric. The only thing that I really can do without is all of this extra on the side. It's kind of like a painted edge. I wish that it was kind of like engraved in there rather than it being painted. It's printed.
You feel it.
It's printed. It's textured, but it's printed.
Okay.
If they were just engraved in there and there were no color in it, it would make it look a lot more expensive. But it also feels like cardboard.
So this is going to be the area that's going to cause a lot of issues. I love the Jeffree Star palettes. I love the Jeffree Star formula. There was one palette that I couldn't get behind because the packaging was so obnoxious. And then last week it was on sale 40% off. So I finally bought the Alien palette, which does complete my collection. I now own every single Jeffree Star palette, at least until the Shane palette drops, and then I have to buy that one. But I was, for the longest time, very anti this palette, even though, and you guys know, these cool tones and green shades and that pop of purple are literally my vibe. Like, I love this color story, but the packaging alone was a reason for me not to buy it.
I can definitely understand that. This palette, it feels like actual leather. Obviously, it's like
it's a vegan
plastic
leather, yeah.
vegan leather. It doesn't, it's nothing crazy, but you could already, like, if you looked at this palette online and you saw a picture of it, you'd be like, why would I buy that? How am I going to store that? It definitely feels expensive. The one thing that I really don't like about it is actually the lettering on here. Typography is something that I feel very strongly about, and this lettering is like a weird font.
It reminds me of the NASA font. So I actually liked the font.
Yeah, I get it. There was a lot of thought that went into this palette. You can tell that. I just don't love the shape. I know what he was going for with this, but I just don't love the shape for it.
I agree. But I cannot wait to dive into the colors. I haven't even used this yet, but this color story is like cool tones, greens and purples, grays. Expect at least 1 or 10 looks out of this palette in the coming future. Next up, something that I could possibly refer to as my favorite palette of all time. This is the Natasha Denona Lila palette. Again, cool tones and purples. You know this is my jam. This is the most expensive palette I own. I'm going to actually run down prices of what we missed, and then we'll go from there, because I don't know, Brandon, if you know how much these retail for, but $48, $54, and I believe this one was $54 as well.
Ironic that one and this one were the same price.
So when you think about formulation, this palette, Blue Blood, is 18 shades. This palette is 18 shades. So the packaging is always secondary with the Jeffree Star palettes. You're paying for the colors. So if you're getting 18 shades, it's the same.
Okay. So this is actually hands down one of my favorite palettes.
$129.
I think the reason I love this packaging the most is just because it feels like a luxe palette. It feels the texture of I'm assuming this is leather.
I would assume.
The stitching on the outside, every palette feels custom. And if you look, there's no painted letters on here. It's all embossed. And the font itself is beautiful. It's perfectly spaced. It's appealing to the eye.
So what do you think about the plastic in the inside?
This piece is what really...
No, this. So in the Natasha Denona palettes, the shade names are on a plastic flappy in the middle of the palette. I don't know if you guys...
The inside of the palette is something that's really interesting to me because it was meant to look like every other palette you've ever purchased, but it was supposed to be different. And if you feel it, this is an actual plastic.
They can't see what you're pointing to.
If you look at this is an actual plastic, and it's got magnets on it, so it allows you to open and close very easily. I could see why, if you were doing your makeup, this plastic sheet would get in the way. But also, whenever you're doing your makeup and someone says, "Oh, what are you wearing?" Most of the time, you forget the color shades. If it's in your face constantly and you're saying, "Oh, well, this is obviously Viola, this is Amara," like those things allow you to do that. But when you look
here, like in the Jeffree palettes, the shade names are printed. There's no plastic sheet.
Yeah.
What I will say for travel, this does...
It saves it.
It keeps a layer of protection so that, if the shadow breaks in the pan when you go to open it, the plastic is kind of holding it in. So I do understand that. I also notoriously do not use the mirrors in palettes. I always have either a freestanding mirror or a hand mirror around for whatever reason. I'm rarely using... I look really green. That's kind of cool looking.
I think the one thing that I probably... and it's because I don't do makeup enough in this case.
Ever.
To really care about whether there's a mirror in it, and I know that a lot of people do like that. The Morphe palettes have that big open space on the top half where it's just a protective layer and there's nothing there. I would love to have the exact same printed... Ooh, I just swapped that. The exact same printed picture and having all the shade names underneath.
Right, as opposed to
the insert that most people throw out and lose anyway.
Right. One of my favorite palettes. This is the Queen of Hearts palette from Colored Rain. That is actually insert.
Weird.
Normally I throw this shit away, but with this palette, for some reason, I want to keep it.
It's
I want
just
this
beautiful.
in the insert. I love this palette. More importantly, the color story is...
I was going to say, this is one of my favorite color stories as well.
Especially this time of year.
So for this palette, I've never heard of Colored Rain until we got this palette. I believe this wasn't a box charm, right?
No.
Okay, so this was one of the palettes that when he got, he was like, this is awesome, you should see this. And I was like, I don't even know.
This palette was sold out for months online. They did a restock, and I finally grabbed it. I had been stalking this palette for literally months.
Yeah. And so the first thing I noticed about this is this sleeve, and obviously Brett said that he doesn't throw it out, but the detailing that goes into this pattern. If you know anything about fashion design, the first thing that people look at when they look at your clothing is the pattern that it has. This just has some really cool,
it's almost
very
snake
intricate
skin.
design. It looks like a snake on the center here, and then it looks like it's mirrored. So it's just a very beautiful packaging on the outside. And then you have the inside, which is still the palette itself feels beautiful. It's like a suede. It's a suede texture. And again, that beautiful embossed type here. It's just perfectly spaced. It's perfectly beautiful. And then the colors on the inside are just that. The colors on the inside are just a beautiful color story. And I like that it's reflective. I like that you kind of have everything. Again, it has that mirror on the inside that I could probably live without, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm. And because it's the Queen of Hearts, the shade names are all very, royal, crown.
Which is always good.
Always on theme. We got our crowns. Next up, this is a newer release. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills... Oh, price. Queen of Hearts is $50. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina palette, which I believe was $42, $45 in that area. But, I mean, it's the generic Anastasia palette, but...
So Anastasia palettes are very, very similar on the outside, and I was really happy to see this because I do love Jackie Aina. But, every palette that Anastasia Beverly Hills puts out is always the same shape, is always the same...
I mean, the new Norvina ones are different, but I prefer the...
Is always the book, it's the same. But this palette having this texture on the outside is beautiful. It's like a printed snake skin, and I love that it's got the coloring on it. It just looks very sleek and very lush. It looks like an expensive palette. The color story on this one also was very beautiful.
So pretty.
And you can make so many different looks out of this and so many different combinations. And just all the different lettering that she does, I think it's beautiful.
And notice, I didn't even peel off. You guys ready for some ASMR beauty? You guys ready? Because I didn't even peel the mirror off.
I don't think that's how that works.
Oh, no, it is.
It's
I love that sound.
pretty sure it's not ASMR, but...
It kind of is. Shut up.
Okay.
So, next, I already know what Brandon's going to say. This is the Me, Myself, and Mama Mitchell palette from Beauty Bay. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it is 2 mini palettes with... This I actually thought was really cool. It is a removable mirror on the inside, so if you're a working artist, that'll kind of protect them. Gives you this little book.
That mirror coming out does not save this palette for me. The outside of this palette makes me want to puke.
It's a little busy.
There's so much going on here. It looks like you took Hollywood Glam and threw up on this palette. Just all of the colors, all of the wording, the lettering that's on here. It's so much. And to even this is a print. It physically is on here, but then you have all the wording down here, and then over here. There's just so much going on, and then you open it up, and it doesn't get any better because you have this clunky giant mirror in the center of the packet that makes this even bigger. That's without it. That's with it. It's a huge palette for literally no reason. The colors are all beautiful. They're all colors that make sense to have. I get what he was going for that, but there's just so much going on here.
I believe this one was $36. So more on the affordable side, actually. Not discount. But clearly it does, the packaging is where the money comes from. And the last palette, because I want to see what Brandon thinks. This is the Huda Beauty New Nude palette. This is not a new palette. It's called the New Nude. Yes, I've used it a handful of times, and it looks brand new. But I love this palette.
I think for me, the outside makes me not want to like this. So
don't hurt yourself, sweetheart.
I love the wording on it. I love how this is all like different textures on the outside, and the fonts are beautiful. The picture on the outside just doesn't do much for me. It doesn't make me want to pick this palette up and say, this looks awesome. If I don't know Huda, I'm not going to grab this palette.
I mean, at this point, who doesn't know Huda?
Me. But the colors on the inside are all beautiful. They make you like want to play with this. I like that these are all textures. I'm assuming these are all glitter shades.
No, well, they're all shimmers. The glitters are pressed in the middle.
Yeah.
What they do in this formula, which I found was, hey, look, another palette. I didn't even peel the sticker off. Is that the iridescence in there, when you swatch and blend it together, it adds a chroma to it.
I love that.
So that it adds a dual chrome shift mixed in, so that the sparkle kind of gets emulsified.
You could definitely see that this palette is going to perform differently than a lot of the ones you're used to, and I think I really do like that. The colors on this palette do a lot for me.
They're mauves, and you always make fun of me when I wear mauves.
I wish that the front was more like a quilted leather.
Do you now?
It's different because it's Huda and she can be that extra. And I think that would kind of set this apart and be something different. It has the colors of like a soft ballet, so I wish she played more with that.
Okay. All right.
And all that print in the back could just go away.
Believe it or not, I mean, I don't know how the editing is going to end up, but it has been 15 minutes. So we're going to go rinse and clean off, and we'll be right back. All right, so we are back. The skin is clean. I feel really hydrated. I think I like this mask. The texture was definitely weird and is going to take some getting used to, but for like that over-exfoliated, my skin needs a little bit of extra hydration. We're actually going to be on a flight tomorrow, so a little extra hydration didn't hurt anybody. Yes, I packed sheet masks for the flight. What did you think? I mean, you've used it before, but... I
love this mask for a number of reasons. It always just makes your skin feel so fresh and clean. I feel like I just scrubbed my face raw, which is something I love. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I love it. It really just pulls everything out of your skin, which is what I love about it.
So when we came back in, I do have a shelf for some of the bigger palettes that I cannot fit in my drawers. So Brandon actually picked this off the shelf. This is the James Charles Morphe Artistry palette. You guys have seen it, I'm sure, all over the place. So, Brandon, I don't know why you wanted to talk about this.
So something that I believe very strongly is simplicity is always better. Coco Chanel, I believe, is the one who said, before you leave the house, always take one accessory off. Mm-hmm. And the concept of that is always just, you can always less is more. This palette does that for me. It's just very simple, and regardless of how you feel about James Charles, the texture on the front, the fact that you can clearly tell is a very well created palette, makes you want to pick this up and say, I need to know more. It's kind of that mysterious vibe, and that's what I love about it. And even just as soon as you open up the palette, if I can do that, again, there's that empty top up there, and then here you have so many shades, and they're all different sizes, which is amazing to me, because I realize that the center shades are probably something different.
They're the ones you're going to use the most.
The most. So it kind of tells you what you're going to need. Can you
grab that palette right there?
It's going to tell you what you're going to need out of this palette.
So the first time Morphe did this bigger pan, it was with this shade, which was the Dare to Create, where all of the transition shades, your neutral browns, were larger, because they know those are the pans you're more likely going to use up first. So that's where the idea for it came. And actually, believe it or not, 4 or 5 years ago, this style, Brandon actually created business cards for me back when I was doing some freelance work. And my business card, it was a matte black, and in a glossy sheen, it was my name written out in my handwriting. So it's actually very similar to this. So when Brandon saw this palette for the first time,
I loved it.
He was like, I designed that for you. That was your business card. I'm like, yes, Brandon, it is. But James Charles did it better and made a hell of a lot more money than I did on his signature.
Yeah, I love the texture of it. I love that you don't have to strain to see it. It's very different. And it's not that big in your face, something so in your face as this, where it's everything at once. This is just simple and very clean.
Beautiful. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
You guys, you asked to hear him and his opinions. Remember that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know down below, what are some of your views on packaging? What are some palettes that are so obscure? And keep in mind, we ended up talking about 10 today. I literally have drawers of palettes that we could talk about. Let me know some of your favorite and least favorite packaging throughout the year, and if we agree with Brandon or not, because, I mean, there are some things I will agree with. I actually like the Huda New Nude. Like, I think compared to her other palettes, I do like the packaging on this. I will say that this is very busy, but as somebody who follows Mama Mitchell, who knows the way that, you know, he's been working with P. Louise and his whole vibe, this is very on brand, and I'm okay with it. So, that being said, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys again, and we will see you next time. Bye!